I call the April 3rd meeting of the Legislative Commission on Pensions and Retirement to order. A quorum is present. The first item on the agenda is approval of the meeting minutes from March 27th, 2023. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Senator Frentz moves approval of the March 27th, 2023 meeting minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. The motion prevails and the meeting minutes are adopted. All right, members, just needed a second to get all my things together here. So our agenda today will be consideration of the pension budget omnibus bill. I will move the bill to be in front of the commission. Since the presentation of our draft budget spreadsheet last Monday, I have had numerous conversations with individuals, pension plan directors, staff, our union partners, commission members, and other stakeholders. I even got to meet with our previous colleague, Lyndon Carlson, which was such a treat to be able to have a conversation with him about the basic plans for teachers. The budget bill that is in front of you represents a balancing of needs of all of these groups and seeks to address the needs and requests of retirees and inactives, members of pension plans, and others who seek to see our high budget target used to better the lives of Minnesotans. I meant it when I said to everyone that I wanted to put something out there so that we could all then make any adjustments necessary, and I think that you all would agree as we go through the DE today and also the budget that we really did try to honor that. There were changes that were made after the initial budget was released on Monday, and we will talk through the reflection of those things in the budget spreadsheet. But with that, I will move the DE1 to be considered by the Commission. Executive Director Linchesky, if you could please explain the DE1 amendment to House File 3100, Senate File 3162. And then I will provide us an update of the budget sheet, and then we could move from there.
Thank you, Chair Herr. There is a summary of the bill in your materials, as well as an addendum that summarizes secure choice. Article 1 of the DE1 reduces the actuarial assumption for the investment rate of return from 7.5% to 7% for all the pension plans. Article 2 makes changes in 3 categories, all relating to COLAs. Sections 1 and 2 amend statutes to remove a provision that takes effect on January 1, 2024 for the MSRS General, Unclassified, and Legislators Plan, and for the Parageneral Plan. This provision was part of the 2018 pension bill. The statutes being removed would delay the start of COLAs until a retiree reaches normal retirement age. A member who retires early would not receive the COLA until reaching age 66. That is removed in the bill. Section 3 revises the COLA for the Paralocal Government Correctional Plan, which is equal to the Social Security COLA, but with a floor of 1% and a cap of 2.5%. Under current law, when the funded ratio drops to 85% for 2 years or 80% for 1 year, the cap drops to 1.5% and stays there indefinitely. Section 3 amends the law to allow the cap to go back up to 2.5% when the funded status improves. Sections 4 and 5 are one-time, non-compounded COLAs that will benefit all retirees who have received at least 12 months of pension payments as of June 30th, 2023. The COLA for retirees who are coordinated members and retirees of the Legislators Plan is the difference between the statutory COLA rate on January 1, 2024 and 2.5%. This will be paid in a single lump sum no later than March 31, 2024. This is the same one-time COLA proposed by the governor. For retirees who are basic members of Parageneral, TRA, or St. Paul Teachers, or retirees of the Police and Fire and State Patrol plans, all of whom are basic members, the COLA is the difference between the statutory COLA rate as of January 1, 2024, and 4%, again paid in a single lump sum. Article 3 makes changes to statutes governing the MSRS plan. Specifically, for members of MSRS General and Unclassified, the employee contribution rate is reduced from 6% of pay to 5.5% of pay for 2 years. For MSRS General, the number of years required for full vesting is reduced from 5 years to 3 years for all members employed on or after July 1, 2023. This, along with the change later in the bill for Parageneral, will mean that the 2 general plans will have the same vesting schedule as the teacher plans. So they'll go from 5 years to 3 years. Sections 3 through 5 revise the expiration date for the supplemental employer contributions to the state patrol plan and the correctional plan, and the annual state aid of $6 million to the judges plan, effectively extending them for 3 years. Article 4 makes one change to the parageneral plan, similar to the change I just mentioned to the MSR's general plan, which is to reduce the vesting required, the service required for full vesting from 5 to 3 years. Article 5 amends statutes governing St. Paul teachers. Section 1 will increase the employee contribution rate by 1% beginning in 2 years, on July 1, 2025, by 1% of pay, resulting in members paying 8.75% of pay. This increase will help fund the new 62 and 30 benefit, which is added by Section 2. Section 2 adds a new benefit, which will allow members to retire as early as age 62 with 30 years of service and receive a full undiscounted retirement annuity. Section 3 are conforming changes to the early retirement statute. Article 6 on page 15 is the appropriation section and has 3 parts. Section 1 appropriates a total of $485.9 million as one-time state aids to the pension plans. The spreadsheet that Chair Herr will be summarizing in a few minutes shows the amount to be paid to each pension plan. Section 2 appropriates $5 million to the para-statewide volunteer firefighter plan to start an incentive program intended to incentivize fire departments and their affiliated volunteer firefighter relief associations to join the statewide plan. The executive director, during the interim, must design a program that will deposit an incentive payment into the account of each fire department that joins the statewide plan on or after January 1, 2024. By January 5th, the executive director must provide the commission with the details of the program and propose legislation that will add a defined contribution component to the statewide plan and make other changes to make the plan more attractive to relief associations. Section 3 appropriates $100,000 to the commission to be used to pay for actuarial cost assessments of legislation and plan design changes. The need for some additional funding for this became apparent this session as the chair and members looked at alternatives for spending the target, but were not able to get the cost assessments to do that. Article 7 is the Secure Choice Retirement Program that was approved by the commission at its last meeting. Article 7 also includes an appropriation of $5 million as Section 13 on page 29. This is a one-time appropriation to fund the startup and administration of the program. One provision that was not included in our Article 7 addresses employee leasing companies. This language was confusing and unclear and looked like it might have an adverse unintended consequence for Minnesota businesses that use a workforce leased to them from an employee leasing company.
Thank you, Director Lincheski. I'm going to go over the spreadsheet before we open this up for member discussion. So if we could just, you have it's a larger than our legal size piece of paper, but it's folded up in your packet. It should look like this, if anybody's questions. Yep, that's perfect. And so what I just wanted to point out is that many of these numbers stayed the same. So if you look at, and this might be easy for us to look through, if we notice that in the bold boxes, if you add all of those boxes up from the first page and the second page, that totals the $600 million. That was our budget target. And you can see at the top, across the plans, is the amount allocated for distribution to each of the pension plans. And again, I just want to remind everyone that we did look at multiple ways of how we could split this up, and we looked at, size of assets or liability, accrued liability, funded ratio. And so what we did was took the one that we thought would benefit the plans the most in the needs that where their greatest needs were. And so we went ahead and split that across the different plans, and that what we did was from the top of the $600 million, took out the $600 million, took out the $100 million for the House File 1234, which is the police duty disability, and also secure choice. And you will see that on the second page is other bills category. Those are moving separately, which is why we have a separate category for them. And then from there, we looked at the $485.9 million and split that up based on what we heard from everyone. So we took off the top the governor's cost of living adjustment, which was 2.5% one-time COLA adjustment, which totaled $71 million. That is a change from the original amount as the calculations, as we looked at them, some of the numbers were a little bit outdated, and once we updated that, we reduced that number from, I think, 78 million to 71 million. And then initially, we had an allocation for the cost of living adjustment for our basic plan members. And just as a reminder, that our basic plan members are the ones who do not get Social Security because of the way their plan is set up. And we had multiple meetings last week to talk with those from basic plans. And we were able to take what we thought was, we were sort of saving in case there were additional costs we had not considered. And so seeing that we had done such a great job as a commission allocating those funds, we put the rest of that into this plan. And so that was an additional 1.45 cost of living adjustment for basic plan members. And you can see each plan that has a basic plan member saw an additional bump in that cost of living. And so for those particular members, they will actually get almost a 4% COLA increase. And the plans where, we wanted to make sure that we made it to the 4%. We are a little bit shy of that, and they were able to absorb the difference in that. So we thought that was important for us to do. And then if you look down underneath that is how the funds were broken out for each one of our plans, MSRS, and these are the options that were chosen by the groups. And so I know we went over some of these. There's really not much difference. I would say that what I want to point out is we did split out St. Paul teachers and TRA, as they both decided that they wanted different options for their plans. And they came with what they thought would work best for their plan members, given the options that we put in front of them. And the St. Paul teachers decided that they wanted to do, to put this towards a benefit change, which is age 62 and 30 years of service, and a buy down of employee contribution. And so that's how they've allocated those funds. And then increase in direct state aid, another $5 million to pay down general liabilities. And then TRA is taking theirs in a lump sum, but we are continuing to work on that plan. Even though our piece is settled, there are other ways in which we are looking to increase teachers' benefits through other budgets. But I just wanted to make you all aware that this work continues even when it's outside of our budget area. So I just will have more update on that. But as of now, that is where we are. And then I really do want to point out that on the second page, the Secure Choice Retirement Program, that we talked about the $5 million for that, but also the funding for incentives to join para-statewide volunteer firefighter plans. I really want to thank Senator Rasmussen for working hard on this piece of it. We do know that our volunteer firefighters oftentimes, because they are smaller and they do independently manage their plans, that we could see increased benefits if they join para. And so we actually created this fund to allow them to sort of look at how they can do that, and if they come on board, additional incentives given to them. And then we do a reevaluation of their plan so that we can increase the benefits to the firefighters. And this is really important so that we get everybody the best benefits that they can. So that is I think a really important component of this bill. And then we did add an additional $100,000. We set aside $100,000 for actuarial costs for LCPR. This is the one thing that I felt like was really important for this plan, because there were times during this commission session that there were scenarios that I wanted to have run so I could put the best options in front of everyone, and we were not able to do that because of actuarial costs. And there are times where the plans all each have their own actuarial costs, and at times within their budgets, they were not able to run scenarios for us as well. And so I wanted to be able to, whenever we thought of something, if we wanted to make sure that, we were vetting options, that we had the funds to do that. And so that $100,000 was set aside for that. And then I just wanted to also draw attention to the no cost or absorbed cost fiscal related benefit improvements, that these were things that our plans said that were important to their plans, and also did not have an impact, or that they were, not that they didn't have an impact, they have great impact, but in a way that they either could absorb the cost or that there was minimal cost to what we were trying to do here. So I just wanted to draw your attention to that. You can read over that when you get a chance. But for me, vesting has always been really important. I think that is an important component of our plans. And to see some of the investing impact on these plans, I think is important for us to also note. So with that, that is the budget and the spreadsheet. And I think, let me just take a look here. See here. I think that does just wrap up everything for us to look at today. I would like to just open up for member discussion at the current time. So if you have questions, please raise your hand and we'll take a list. Oh, and before we do that, I do just want to note that we received, because we had given time during session to listen to individuals who wanted to testify, I wanted to leave today to allow us to have discussion. And so I asked for those who wanted to give comments about what is in this DE and also the budget to send us written testimony. And so you have That information, it's been posted on our website. I think there is a copy in everybody's package. Is there?
No, there's a notebook to be
Oh,
passed.
there is a notebook that has all of the testimony in it, and so please feel free to take a look at that as we're discussing the bill as well. So with that, members, I do open this up for discussion. If you, actually, by the way, do we want to do the other amendments first, or should we go ahead and just do the DE?
I think we have to adopt the DE first.
All right, let's do that. Yeah. All right, we're going to change that up just a little bit. I actually am going to move the DE to be considered by this commission, and that we are going to adopt, actually. We have a discussion. Okay. I think, do we want? All right, members, we're going to actually adopt the DE1 to House File 3100, Senate File 3162 first. So all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay.
Nay.
And the motion prevails, and the bill is, the DE1 is adopted. And what I would like to do is just add, we have 2 amendments to the bill, and I'd like to actually go through those amendments first so that the bill is in the order that we can all have a discussion on. So I understand that there is an A1 amendment to the bill. Representative Doe, would you like to offer the A1?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. I move the A1. And this bill, this amendment, members, is really quite simple. Last week or the week before, we heard testimony from the consolidation of the Loretto and Hamel Fire Department. And so what this amendment does is it changed the dates to make the Hamel and Loretto Fire Departments eligible for the supplemental part of the budget in Article 6, Section 2 of this bill. So all it does is change the date. It only affects this one particular special legislation, fire department consolidation.
Thank you, Representative Doe. Is there any discussion to the A1? Representative O'Driscoll.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I believe those 2 departments are going to be going into having the SBI manage them, so they would be eligible for the contemplated incentives that are in the bill. So it's not anything that's new or being given to a single department over the preference of other departments. They are planning to go into this plan, and if I understand the amendment right in the background, they're able to get into their consolidation and the plan in the timeline upon further review of this, and they're wanting to make that correction. And I guess I would ask Ms. Lincheski if my interpretation of that and understanding is correct.
Ms. Lincheski.
Madam Chair, Representative Driscoll, that is correct.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Lincheski.
Any further discussion on the A1 amendment? Seeing no further discussion, all in favor of the A1 amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed signify by saying nay. And the A1 is adopted. We do have an A3 amendment, and this is a Senator Pappas amendment. Senator Pappas, would you like to describe the A3?
Madam Chair and members, I'd just like to thank Ms. Lincheski for trying so hard to get this language right, and for Ms. Cook, who's also been working on it to make sure that this type of entity that provides bookkeeping services for various employees, I believe I'm describing it correctly. I don't know if that's the proper word. And I think it's still, we're still waiting for some clarification, but I think this is the best version right now that we have.
Thank you, Senator Pappas. Any discussion to the A3 amendment? Representative Nadeau.
And I'm sorry, and Senator Pappas, can you explain just a little bit more about exactly what this is doing? I'm sorry, I just don't
I
understand
know. Could we ask
it.
Ms. Cook to come and
Okay.
explain? I think I don't really understand it either.
And before Ms. Cook does say, explain about, maybe Ms. Lincheski, did you want to maybe give a little bit of background? Okay, all right, Ms. Cook, if you could go ahead and talk a little bit to the A3.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I really appreciate your taking time with this. It is a very small part of a much bigger bill, but I know everybody does want to get this right. My name is Judy Cook, and I represent Insperity, and they are a professional employer organization, or better known as employee leasing. And what they do is that they provide comprehensive human resources solutions like payroll processing, employee benefits administration, tax administration, and regulatory compliance for small to mid-sized businesses. The PEOs provide these services to their clients through a long-term contractual arrangement where various employer responsibilities are allocated between the PEO and the client. It is important to get this language right so that it is very clear that the client, or for example, I'll just use my business as an example. So if our firm decided that we wanted to hire Insperity or another PEO to manage all of our payroll and benefits, they would be the official employer for some purposes, but for others, okay, I've lost you, I can tell. For others, it's very important in statute that it's very clear that our business as the tax-paying employer who is responsible. So what we're trying to do is make sure that if I'm an employee of a business that has a contractual arrangement with a PEO, I can either get my retirement plan through the PEO if they offer it, or otherwise I would get it through Secure Choice. We want to make sure that every employee is treated the same and every employee is going to have access either through the PEO plan or through Secure Choice. And this language is thanks to Ms. Linczewski. I think we have a little bit of work to do on it, but it gets us there, and it is very important that we do have this designation in statute. And we do it elsewhere in statute, and other states that have that have retirement plans such as Secure Choice similarly have language for employee leasing.
Thank you, Ms. Cook. If you wanted to stay there in case there's further
Okay,
questions until we're through this part. Ms. Linczewski, did you have anything to add to that? All right. Representative Nadeau, does that satisfy your question regarding the amendment?
Yes, just one follow-up. So, and thank you. So this would be for temporary employment agencies, all of them, or is it different?
This is not, they are not
Cook.
sorry, Madam Chair. Representative Nadeau, these are not temporary employment agencies. That's why we need to be very clear in statute to tie in with the UI statute, which is I think that designation is still there. It is not temporary employment. So it would be like my firm and all of our employees would hire a PEO to manage all of our work. It is not temporary employment, and we want to make it very clear this does not apply to temp agencies.
And Madam Chair?
Senator Pappas.
And just to be clear that it's Ms. Cook's firm that's the employer, the covered employer here, not the firm she's contracting with to manage all these other issues.
Representative Nadeau, I think
Okay,
that confused
and I'm
me.
sorry, and I'll be done in a sec. So my understanding is Secure Choice requires every employee, every employer, be it a PEO, be it your firm, be it whatever, you're already obligated to provide, if this bill, if Secure Choice passes, you're under that obligation. So what you're saying is without this language, there's a carve out, the Secure Choice language has missed a particular class of employee, and this will then cover that? Or is this alleviating certain employers who have PEO agreements out from under that obligation and pushing it on the PEO?
Ms. Cook.
Madam Chair, Representative Nadeau, I think it's actually neither. Sorry, this is complicated. But what we're trying to do in the language is make sure that every employee is covered. And so ideally what will happen is it's clear that either my firm has to offer it, right, through Secure Choice, if the PEO who we contract with doesn't offer it. Without this language, it would not be clear. I don't think I've answered your question, but we are not trying to get anybody out of the obligation. We are trying to ensure that all employees are covered.
Representative Nadeau.
And thank you, Madam Chair, and I will be done now. I don't see where the language in the Secure Choice allows someone not to abide. So I don't know how this will affect that, but I know it's complicated. I don't know what I'm gonna do with this yet, but as my understanding is Secure Choice applies to every business that has, I think it's now the carve out is for five, I think, but
5 or more.
that applies to all with that exception. So thank you for trying to explain that.
Madam Chair, Representative Nadeau, we have to be clear in here that it is the tax-paying employer who would be in this scenario, my firm, who has that obligation, just like we do under unemployment insurance law. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cook. Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I understand it, the secure choice is a requirement for all employers who have 5 employees or more, unless they offer their own pension or their own retirement at certain standards. And I understand why this would be necessary for those businesses who hire a particular firm, like the one that you represent, to take care of HR things, lots of things. But my question, so I understand the necessity of what this amendment does, but my question is, are the PEOs, in order to be exempt from the requirement of secure choice, do they have to offer the same level that we are requiring the other employers to offer as far as the IRAs?
Senator Pappas.
Madam Chair, Senator Nelson, there's not really a level involved here, because it's really, you set up an auto IRA, that's it. So it's not, there aren't a lot of choices here. If you decide you want to offer a 401k to your employee, which means you can also contribute, you can do that as well. But it's just being able to offer, the auto IRA. I guess there is a level, a minimum of the auto IRA.
I guess
Senator Nelson.
Madam Chair, that's my question. Whatever we're saying the minimum is for our private employers, that should be the minimum for the PEOs, and I don't know if that's captured in this amendment.
Senator Pappas or Ms. Cook, I don't know if you have any thoughts to that, but I know that this is a complicated amendment that we've tried. I think that there have been multiple many attempts this weekend to try to ensure that it is captured correctly. And I think that both Senator Pappas and Ms. Cook have acknowledged that we can continue to refine this language. We still have a stop in Ways and Means for this bill, and we are I don't know if this is the type of thing that I should be saying publicly to everyone, but we are still looking at exploring this bill, moving separately on its own, and that there will be further discussion on how some of these pieces might fit into that, and its, ability to be on the floor to be amended at that time as well. But I think we do have a couple more opportunities to actually get this right. And so I know that Senator Pappas and Ms. Cook are both hearing all of your feedback right now, and we'll definitely take that into consideration as we move forward. Senator Pappas, do you have any closing thoughts to this? Okay. Representative Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so what I'm hearing, and I guess what this basically is saying, like unemployment, these employees are employees of Ms. Cook's company as opposed to the PEO. So Ms. Cook's company is the one that has the obligation under the secure choice language. So this is basically stating that these are not employees of the PEO, they're employees of Ms. Cook's company. I guess is that how I understand it? Would that be correct? And
Representative Nelson, from what I understand, that is correct, and I think that has been the challenges of ensuring that the language actually writes it in the way you've just described it. Ms. Linczewski can make one comment, and then we'll go back to Senator Nelson. Is that okay?
Yeah, Madam Chair, thank you. And Representative Nelson, my concern with the language was that it does exactly what you're talking about, but oftentimes, along with the workforce comes benefits. So the PEO is providing a full array of benefits to this group of workers. So the issue that I was seeing here was that they will have a retirement plan from the PEO or the leasing organization. So the question is, should they also have to contribute to secure choice and ask the PEO to do the payroll deducts and pay the PEO to do the payroll deducts for secure choice? So there is a line here now, 1.8 and 1.9, that says that if the PEO or the employee leasing organization has a retirement plan, the Minnesota company does not have to be considered a covered employer for secure choice.
Senator Nelson.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. And for the further clarification, so my question just remains, though, do we have a level requirement or minimum, whether it's not the same for a private employer as opposed to a private employer who hires a PEO? Does the current language treat them the same as far as the minimum requirement regarding the IRA?
Senator Nelson, I guess maybe we can maybe take this conversation, off, outside of this time, because what I'm trying to understand is when you say minimum standards, so an account is either a qualified account or it is not. It is either, an instrument that is used for retirement or it is not. And so, and if it's through the regulated market, if it's a qualified account, then it is a qualified account. So I guess I just want to make sure I understand what a minimum account, when you say that, what you're referring to, so.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Senator
Sure.
Nelson.
And so, no, I understand that. They're either qualified or not according to the federal regs. I just want to know if if any required participation by the employer, like at such a percent of payroll, maybe that's not in here at all. Maybe it's just, maybe I'm thinking more of the paid family leave, which requires a particular amount. But I just want to make sure they're treated the same. So
Thank you, Senator Nelson.
that's my question.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Senator Pappas, did you have any comments?
Madam Chair, yeah, just to clarify, with an auto IRA, it's only the employees' contributions that go in, and the board will set a minimum contribution rate that the employee makes, but the employer not only is not required to contribute, they're not allowed to contribute.
Thank you, Senator Pappas. Representative O'Driscoll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to try to help clarify this concept, hopefully for the rest of the members, what this amendment does, as I understand it from reading it from the discussions today, we don't want to artificially inflate, for example, Cook Girard with the number of employees which would qualify them or not qualify them for participation by using leased employees and vice versa. We don't want to, from that leased company, artificially inflate or lower their numbers as a result of that. It's who you are employed with, even though you may be sharing services with another entity, that you're counted on your, for lack of better terms, books of origination or employer of origination.
Senator Pappas. All right, I should not laugh. I should be very serious about this. No, Representative O'Driscoll, thank you for the comment. I think that, this shows that we will continue to have discussion over this, and I know Senator Pappas has been extremely receptive to making sure that language meets the needs of what we're trying to do, so thank you, Senator Pappas, on that. Do we have any further discussion on this A3 amendment? All right, with no further discussion, all those in favor of adopting the A3 amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. And the motion does prevail, and the amendment is adopted. Back to the bill as amended. So now we are on to discussion of the bill as it is amended. Members, if you have
Madam
any
Chair.
questions, all right, Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a small oral amendment to secure choice that I discussed with Senator Pappas, and she'll take it as a friendly amendment, just a technical thing.
Okay.
Thought it'd be easier to amend it today versus after it leaves the commission. So with that, Madam Chair, on page 28, line 14, I would move to strike the word by and insert
28.
no earlier than. And I'm happy to explain it, Madam Chair.
Representative Rasmussen, could you just repeat the line number? So that was page 28?
Yeah, so on page 28, line 14, strike the word by and insert the words no earlier than.
All right, just to repeat that, Senator Rasmussen is making oral amendment to page 28, lines 14, under, at the end of that sentence, remove the word by, strike out the word by, and add in no earlier than. Any discussion to this oral amendment? Representative O'Driscoll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a good amendment, I believe, and I believe Senator Pappas is supportive of this as well. The spirit and intent, every time I've heard the secure choice part of this legislation discussed, was that we weren't going to open the doors on this for participants to start collecting money until on or after January 1st of 2025. What this does is this prevents the appointed board from saying, well, we're all dressed, let's put the parade out 4 months before that or 6 months before that, or the option out there where the business public who would be covered by this may not have ample opportunity to be able to work with it. It puts a more secure date in there for the employers, knowing what they would have to strike to or for or at versus before that date or by that date could mean before that particular January 1st date, which could be somewhat problematic in communication with employers and participation.
Thank you, Representative Driscoll. And Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That was the intention, so it's just clarifying language.
Thank you, Senator Pappas. Any further discussion on the oral amendment? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of the oral amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. And the oral amendment is adopted. All right, on to the, are there any other amendments? All right, no further amendments, then on to discussion of the bill as amended. Any discussion? Senator Frentz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to just start by saying thank you to staff for all the work. Thank you to the stakeholders. Thank you, Madam Chair. You created an inclusive process that usually leads to a little bit better result. I thought in addition to the bill in general being great, there were 3 things worth pointing out. First of all, hasn't been that long since this commission had a robust discussion about lowering the assumed rate of return. I remember a year ago, January, that was a hot potato, and I want to thank the plan directors for pointing out why it's important, but also thank the chair and members for allowing this to go at its own speed. And now you've got a bit of a benefit, assumed rate of return trade-off, and I think a much more widely accepted dropping of the assumed rate of return. So I think everybody wins with that. And again, thank you to the plan directors. Also appreciate the opportunity for these further discussions over the weekend. I'm guessing I was not the only member who got calls from teachers in our district asking about what might happen. And I appreciate the way these discussions are ongoing. You've allocated the money here. I think that's great. And now St. Paul teachers seem to have cast their die. I'm looking forward to hearing what the rest of the state's teachers do. We appreciate the work teachers did during the pandemic and always. And I guess we'll just stay tuned for next week's episode on that. And then finally, we set aside money for actuarial work, and I think that's just awesome. I mean, we've had discussions, including on the assumed rate of return, about how the plan actuaries may come forward and the relationship of the plan actuaries to the plans. That's certainly their prerogative, but by having the LCPR have their own actuary money, who knows, maybe someday we'll want to have our own actuarial work, and I'm not suggesting, Madam Chair, that the results of that work would differ from any of the plan actuaries, but we will be able to tell the people of Minnesota, hey, we put our own look on this thing, and this is what we came up with, and I think we'll be in a great position to tell the members, actives, retirees, put our own funds on this, and that was to make sure we had an unbiased, independent actuarial result. I know that'll make Senator Rasmussen happy. And looking forward to voting for this and seeing it on its path. So thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Senator Frentz. Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A few comments on the bill, but I just also want to echo Senator Frentz's thank you to staff and to you for leading the conversations during this session. I do think it would be prudent to consider moving secure choice separately. I just think it's worth its own debate and discussion. But if I take a look at this bill, and I'll be supporting the bill today, there's a lot of good work that I want to highlight. The first is moving the assumed rate of return to 7%. I think that makes a lot of sense for setting up our funds for success in the future and making sure that we are funding our pension funds and that we have an eyes wide open look at their health. Second, I want to just note that I believe, if I'm reading the spreadsheet correctly, we're putting about $355 million into our state pension funds as direct state aid. I think this is a smart move. It's a prudent move to just bolster the health of our plans going forward and to take the opportunity to take one-time money and put it towards that purpose. Also want to highlight the incentive plan for the statewide volunteer firefighter plan through PARA. Right now, our firefighters frankly aren't getting the money that they deserve, and that has been paid in to our relief associations. And I'm excited to see what PARA comes up with in terms of an incentive plan to make sure that the money that we're putting into our relief associations are going to maximize the benefits that volunteer firefighters are receiving to attract and retain them going forward. And then I also want to say, I know this is something we've talked about, all of the benefits in this bill, that have a meaningful impact are paid for. And I think that's a really important principle. It can be tough to do, but it sets up our plans for success in the future, making sure that we're not passing the buck onto a future pension commission or a future legislature. And so I appreciate that principle was followed in the bill before the commission. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Rasmussen. Representative O'Driscoll.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I mentioned a number of weeks ago that you really kind of got to be dedicated to this topic, to give up your Monday mornings at 8:30 to come in on the weekends, and many of the people who are on this commission don't live in the metro area, so it's a Sunday night trip or it's a very, very early Monday morning trip. And I want to thank staff, and I want to thank you, and I want to thank the others around the table. We have always been able to, in my history with the Pension Commission, come to a workable solution that both chambers and both caucuses of those chambers are able to support. And I think there's a lot of good work that's in here. The policy bill was good work. The one-time money, you did not get a chance to set that target. That was one that was given to you. I know that we have some folks out there who are not happy, and that's not just in one group. There's a couple of groups that are not happy, and the Pension Commission still keeps their eye on that. Unfortunately, today I will not be supporting the bill because we have secure choice in here. We have been told in our House committees that secure choice is really not a pensions issue, it's something separate. And so don't worry about it not going to the Pension Commission and getting as much attention to the Pension Commission as it had been in the past. I would strongly support this bill if the secure choice was not in there, and would encourage my colleagues in my caucus to do the same thing. I just think that's kind of a showstopper on there. If that was traveling separately as an independent bill, as was brought forward in the House, then people could make their own decisions on their support of that. But I do think this is good work, but there are a few chapters yet to be written, as you suggested. There may be some revisions to this, where that may be traveling separately. And again, I would underscore and encourage that, but today I have to be a no vote. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative O'Driscoll. Senator Howe.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll echo some of the words of Representative O'Driscoll. I tell you what, there's a lot of great work that you've done here, and you didn't set the target, which kind of made this even more difficult than what the bill already is. I do commend the statewide volunteer firefighter language. I think that's great work. It had some issues before. Good work on getting that all straightened out. I do believe that there's a lot of great provisions in here to make things better for everyone, even though you couldn't do what we needed to, we believe we need to do. I echo the concerns of Representative O'Driscoll on the secured choice provisions. I'd like to see that move on its own so I can support this bill. But today, because it's in there, I won't be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Howe. Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too support much of what's in this bill, all of the points that have been made. And I would be remiss, though, if I did not note my concern about secure choice. Although I tend to be supportive. Senator Pappas has made some modifications that I think make it more workable. But it's the timing, Madam Chair and committee members. There are so many things potentially looking like they are going to be coming to our businesses, particularly our smaller businesses that don't have those big departments to run through all these things. And it's just the compounding effect of perhaps paid family leave, secure choice, many other things. And I just think there would be a better time and place to bring secure choice forward.
Thank you,
But I do
Senator.
plan to support today because of the good things in the bill, but know that there's some things that we could make better. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Nelson. Any further comments? Seeing that there are no further comments, I will just make a few comments before we go on and vote on this bill. I think that many of you have heard me say this, that when Speaker Hortman asked me to be the chair of the commission, I said no the first time. And I said no because I understood how big pensions was and how we had done pensions in the past. And I thought about it for a couple of weeks, and they announced the chairs, and then I was not on any of the chairs, and I got I felt like 100 calls from people saying, what's going on? And I wanted to be clear with people that I'd been offered a chair. I just had said no. And I had weeks to, week or so to think about this, and then I decided that maybe it was the best thing for me to take on the chair of pensions. But I did so with a couple of requests from the speaker. I said, one, we had to appoint people earlier so that we could start this work earlier, that pensions could not be an afterthought. I said, two, I need a target, a real target. I need us to be able to do real work for people. And so can't remember now because it's been a while, but there were a couple of other conditions in there, and the speaker looked at me and said, okay, we can do that. I thought, oh, okay, then we have something to start with, right? And I was really happy when all of the individuals who were appointed to this commission were appointed because they wanted to be. I know that in the past, we have struggled to actually get people who were willing to learn how complex pension is and to really understand the impact on people's lives. And I want you all to know that I could not have been more honored to lead this commission and this group of members through this process, that we have held more hearings than any commission in the past. We have heard from more individuals and taken more testimony than any commission in the past. And we put together a bill that took in more consideration from everyone who wanted to have their voices heard. Could there have been more? Absolutely. I mean, just the other week, we had a town hall where Representative Wolgamott and I attended with 600 teachers who wanted us to hear, in addition to the thousands of emails that we all got, in addition to the thousands of phone calls we all received, and that this commission took this work really seriously. I want to thank Representative Rasmussen for the partnership that you have had with me on this, that many of the good things in this bill was because you were willing to have honest and genuine conversation with me, and I really appreciate that. And Representative Howe, Senator Howe, the work that you did on House File 1234 to lay the foundation for what we took on and the additional work that we still may be needing to do on this, I wanted to thank you for your contribution. Senator Nelson, for always asking really thoughtful and considerate questions and ensuring that we are thinking through some of the pieces that we might not have. I appreciate that so much. Senator Seeberger, for some of the bills that you brought forward that specifically impacted individual people's lives and what that was going to mean for them. Senator Murphy, for always being a champion of labor and ensuring that labor's perspective is always heard and represented. Senator Pappas, for being the knowledge of what has happened on the Senate side regarding this commission work and the bills that you've been championing forever and wanting to ensure that they get done. And even though there have been years in between some of these topics coming up, just your persistence in ensuring that this continues. Senator Frentz, for being an amazing co-chair to this work. You have been an amazing support from me in bringing not just your knowledge, but always ensuring that you were empowering me and lifting me up and making sure that when systems and structures don't always honor individuals who don't look the way we've seen in the past lead work, that you ensured that that happened, and you've been a great ally and a great partner, and I appreciate that so much. And Representative O'Driscoll, for the amazing questions. I don't think there was one hearing that you didn't ask a question in, but I really appreciate that you are so thoughtful and that you truly want to learn, and you've done such an amazing job in doing so. Representative O'Driscoll, for always being the historian of this commission and taking this work so seriously, and the numerous conversations we had on the House floor and you guiding me and helping me understand this work better. My new members, Representative Chan, Representative Wolgamott, for saying you really wanted to be in this commission and taking the time to learn. And even though there were times where there were topics or issues that you did not understand, that you were willing to dive in and have conversations with me separately. Representative Berg, for this being your second term, and knowing that there are much more we still need to learn, but asking me always, how does labor feel about this? Are we making the right decisions? Because I don't know. I want to make sure that we have the correct information so that we do right by our labor partners. I appreciate you constantly centering that. And Representative Nelson, this should have been your chairmanship, but you've been so gracious in teaching me and helping me and guiding me along the way so that I can do right. And the knowledge that you give to me in the history that you have of this commission, I really appreciate that. It is the knowledge of this entire body that makes us better. And I want you all to know that I've appreciated each one of your contribution. To staff, Lisa, Susan, Nick, and John, who have literally done all of the work and ensuring that I look like I have everything together. It's really not me, it's them. And so I just wanted to take this time to really thank each and every one of you. And to everyone here who shows up every week, thank you so much for ensuring that even if it is not your plan, that everyone who benefits or who needs help or whose voice needs to be heard, that you are showing up and making those voices heard. I appreciate each and every one of you so much. Oh, I did. I think I said Representative Nadeau. Representative Nadeau, I did say something nice about you, didn't I? Asking questions every... Oh, I said, it was O'Driscoll. You know what? I do not know why I keep calling everybody Representative O'Driscoll. That is awful. I am so sorry. It was Representative Nadeau that asks questions at every commission hearing, and how I appreciate how insightful. And he did point out to me that he is on every committee that I am on. State Gov, pensions, we're also on health. And so I get to hear him every day, all the time. And I have been so lucky to hear how thoughtful
I'm
he
sorry, Madam Chair.
No, it truly has been a pleasure to be able to sit on all of these commissions and committees with you. So with that, I know I said a lot, but I wanted to make sure you all understood how important this work was and how important each and every one of you was to this work to put together a policy omnibus that I'm really proud of, but this budget as well. And so thank you all so much for the work. And I look forward to continuing to work with all of you in the interim because we made a lot of promise to a lot of people who we couldn't get everything done. From looking at why the employer doesn't have to pay what the actuaries tell us that we should be paying, or the firefighter work that we've left with Auditor Blaha that we're still working on to ensure that we honor the work that her group has done. There's just so many more things sitting on this parking lot, and I look forward to all of us continuing to meet as well as we wrap up this session and get these bills forward, but as we continue to move, get ourselves ready for the next session. So thank you all so very much. I have said a lot, and so thank you for giving me the courtesy of doing that. And with that, if there is no further discussion to the bill, as amended, I do again want to just note that there were over 50 pieces of submitted testimony from teachers, pension plan directors, and other advocates and stakeholders. That book it's making its way around, so please take a look at that. But all of the pieces of testimony have also been posted. And so I want to just thank everyone for being a part of this. And so seeing that there is no further discussion, I will move to authorize staff to make any necessary technical corrections to House File 3100, Senate File 3162. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay.
Nay.
And the motion approves, and the motion approved and is adopted, it does prevail and is adopted. I now move that, I think I have to do this too, right? In order to make it real? I'm still getting used to that. So I will now move that House File 3100, Senate File 3162 as amended be recommended as the 2023 Pension and Retirement Budget Bill, and this recommendation be forwarded to the House and Senate Committees of Jurisdiction. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay.
Nay.
The motion does prevail, and the recommendation is adopted. Thank you, members, all for your hard work for this session.
Minutes?
Oh, we did not approve, did I not approve the minutes?
We did,
Oh, okay, all right, thank you.
must be before I walked in.
This concludes our business for today. Members, we will have your next commission hearing after our legislative break on Monday, April 17th, where we will consider outstanding agenda items that we will work, will work on in the interim. So seeing that there's no further business in front of this committee, this meeting is adjourned.